shall we start? So, what's your definition of xenophobia?
Okay, xenophobia is a prejudice, meaning a grudge you have against foreign nationals. My definition would be it's like jealousy, a form of jealousy against foreigners, and you are kind of being racist. And why? Because you fear that they might replace you, that they are better than you, and that they might take what you have or what you think is yours. I was gonna do a video on relationships with my wife, but unfortunately because of what is happening in South Africa, there's more urgent matters. So today I want to talk about xenophobia. I'm gonna talk about the problems right now and how South Africa can solve it. So to the ones in government watching and to the people out there, these are the possible solutions and the things that we need to discuss and we should talk about when we are talking politics. So let's start over the problems. So right now there's a overpopulation of foreigners in South Africa, and what makes this a big problem is the fact that South Africa has got a 27% unemployment rate, which results in what I would call jealousy, because how can the foreigner come to South Africa and they've got the job of the working class, the man on the ground? This is not a healthy situation, and over the years it has escalated. I remember when I was in university in 2012, when we had the farm strikes in the Dorings, and then there was a support strike nationally to show their solidarity with the farmers. They had a problem with the Zimbabweans and the Lesotho people who were taking their jobs. So this is one of the things I'm going to talk about in how we can solve this. The second thing, right now there are certain nationalities in South Africa that have built a reputation. I know there are good ones out there, but some of them have become synonymous with the fact that they are scammers. They participate in prostitution, racketeering, money laundering. They are involved in drugs. They have armed themselves with guns. They are committing crimes, killing people. No economy can function on its own because we are living in a global village, and if we are going to close our doors to the outside business world, we are going to be so far behind that the world will have moved on. So this is not an option. We need to incorporate foreign nationals into our economy, and I will tell it to you in the solutions how I think we can solve the problem. Another problem, I worked in the bank, and there are good farmers out there. So in 2012, the solidarity strike, where South African farm workers decided to stand up against the farmers that were employing foreign nationals, Zimbabweans and people from Lesotho in particular, because those people were willing to take salaries under the breadline, and they reduced the average wage, and this also resulted in South Africans losing their jobs because the farmers were now more keen to employ the foreign nationals.
So, what do you think the implications are on South Africa as a whole in tourism and foreign investment?
Okay, on South Africa as a whole, you need to understand that South Africa is an exporter, a net exporter. We make more money from stuff we send outside of the country. So our money comes from production, farming. Our farming is doing very well. People would boycott, not people, foreign countries might decide to boycott South African products because they don't agree with xenophobia. In terms of tourism, we have Cape Town, Durban, PE. The coastal cities have very beautiful beaches, And the countryside where we are from, Shiraz, it's got the majestic mountains. Our country would suffer in terms of tourists because nobody would think that South Africa is safe because foreigners are being victimized. If they have to choose between South Africa and other countries, then we are no longer on the list, Cape Town for Table Mountain. So that's the implication of xenophobia.
Okay, so you gave the definition of xenophobia, but why do you think it happened in South Africa?
Why South Africa? South Africa was the definition of the rainbow country. That's what the ANC with Nelson Mandela sold to the rest of the world. We had the Rugby World Cup and we were selling that this is the country where anyone is welcome. South Africa is also the biggest economy in Africa, which means that to the fellow Africans, it's the promised land. They come here to get rich. People from China, USA, UK, all of them, Australia, all of them are coming with the intent of making money because they see South Africa as a third world country. Some of the metros are first world, our airports are first world, but they see it as the new promised land where they can make money and where they can become rich, and they have legitimate reasons.
And this is why our people get jealous. Because the question is, why is it happening?
You need to look at it from two perspectives. Our people are fed up of the drugs, the money laundering, the racketeering, the prostitution, crime. Then there's the fact of jealousy. Jealousy in terms of you are taking my job, you are stealing my job. There's no special skill that you have, yet you are taking my job. And the other thing is South Africa has got labor laws to protect the ordinary citizens, the unskilled labor. It's there to protect people, to put bread on the table. So there's the bread line to have a basic living condition. And the problem is there's no regulation, and some of these foreigners, they are willing to take less than 120 per day because when they go back to their country they will have a decent life because our currency is much stronger than theirs.
When did things start to get out of hand?
The first time this became a real problem nationwide was in 2012. I think it started in the Doorns, town that I used to work in. I was a banker in the Doorns. Before, in 2012, I was still a student at university. So what happened was the farming community started to stand up, because I have to mention the countries because the Zimbabweans and the Lesotho people were willing to accept salaries lower than what the South Africans were receiving, and this resulted in the farmers employing predominantly foreign nationals. So what happened was the local people started losing their jobs, and this resulted, I can call it jealousy because it's legitimate reason to be jealous, and it wasn't ethically fair because they were willing to accept wages lower than the bread line. This started in 2012, and right now it has taken on a new toll. People are now losing their businesses. Their businesses are being burned out. Their homes are being burned out. Their cars are being burned out. They are being killed. So South Africans have started to band together to blanket all the foreign nationals and started participating in xenophobic attacks.
Can you elaborate on the xenophobia problems?
There are certain nationalities that have been renowned repeated offenders in terms of drugs, prostitution, racketeering, money laundering, crimes of all sorts. They are scamming people. When it comes to second-hand cars, they are coming with diamond scans. You name it, they've done it. So this is one problem. The farming industry I've told you about, it's a massive problem. The other problem is guilty by association. If you refrain from speaking up, you see that a fellow South African in China is committing crimes. Why are you remaining silent when they don't have a degree and they are working illegally? It's reflecting bad on South Africans. So if foreign nationals are seeing that something is wrong, they should be the ones reporting it to the police, because tomorrow who's gonna suffer? South Africans in China, if we don't speak up when other fellow South Africans are committing crimes. So it's your duty to speak up. And why all the foreign nationals are suffering in South Africa right now, and you'll notice that it's not the Chinese people in South Africa or the British that are suffering, it's people from our fellow neighboring African countries.
So how can the government solve this problem?
Okay, I'll start off with what the rest of the world are doing. China, USA. So our government needs to start regulating foreign nationals. We should stop this. You are from another country and you don't need a working permit to come and work in South Africa. So when I applied to the UK while I was working in the bank, I made it to the interview process, and then I was being told that I needed a sponsor, meaning a company that's willing to state that I'm going to work at their company. So a sponsor means an organization that's willing to stamp your papers and tell the government that you are going to work at their company. And unfortunately, I couldn't get the job because this was not considered a scarce skill. So what our government needs to do is we should put in regulations. So we need to define scarce skills. It doesn't mean that you have a degree that you can come to South Africa. It only needs to be a scarce skill, because we don't want to flood the market with unnecessary degrees and then the local South Africans are suffering. If you want to come to China, there's a list of jobs that you can apply for. So for us as teachers, we needed a sponsor, a company that gave an acceptance letter. That was number one. Then we needed to send our degrees to DIRCO for validation and authentication. Then we needed to do a criminal background check. We needed to scan our fingers, go to the police station, local police station, and then the fingerprints needed to be sent to Pretoria, and then all of those documentations that I just mentioned, you have to take that to the embassy, and then the Chinese have to put a seal on it, which takes 1 week. And then after that 1 week, you can go to the embassy and book your ticket. Apply for a visa. Then you get a Z visa that validates you for 30 days. So when you get in China, then you must go for blood work. You need to get a medical check. And this medical check is to see that if you have a disease. So I can imagine if you have something like HIV or AIDS, you might not make it into the country, or you might not apply for health insurance or all sorts of complications. So you're not going to make it. And these are rules to protect the Chinese, because they don't want any foreign diseases. With regards to farming, I worked in the bank and I saw what was happening. You solve the problem in the short term, yes, your numbers goes up, your bank statement is looking good, the balance sheet is looking good. But what are you doing to the local community? Now, the people that used to work on the farm, they no longer have a job. And every Saturday, Friday and Sunday, when they see the farmers come to town, they go to the bank. These people are hungry, they don't have money. They see the Hiluxes, the Fortuners, they are coming with their Ford Rangers, they see money on two legs, and that's where our problem starts. So first it used to be the farmers, and now it became SPV. Then it escalated into farm murders because these people didn't have jobs. We need to get the work permit thing also on a serious note. So unskilled labor, sorry, no longer welcome in South Africa. We need to create jobs for our own people first, South Africans first. Any other questions?
No. Just a positive note.
A positive note. I think it's time for South Africans to stand up, to stand together. We need to forget about racism. We need foreigners. We need the Chinese. We need the Americans. We need the British, the Europeans. We need them to come to our country. We need them, the Elon Musks and those people. We need them to come and build factories in South Africa for our economy to prosper, for us to remain the #1 economy in Africa. I'm very optimistic about the future because our country has got a relationship with China, who's the biggest economy in the world, but according to GDP, the #6 in the world. So it's interesting times, and it's good that our South Africans are starting to stand up, and I believe that our president right now, I believe that he's got the capabilities and the abilities to solve the problems. Yes, he's a capitalist. Yes, he comes from the corporate world, and right now we need someone that understands business to solve our problems, because this populist politics of mobilizing people and standing up and you just creating problems so that you can thrive, this is not gonna last. To the people of South Africa, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. You need to start these debates yourself and come up with the solutions. Thank you for watching.